Well, we got some good news and some bad news. Alright, hello and welcome to this episode of Worth Watching Wednesdays. Today, our first little bit of movie news is that there was a new full theatrical trailer for Godzilla starring Bryan Cranston and Aaron Taylor Johnson, Elizabeth Olsen, and a whole bunch of other awesome people. And the trailer is great. It's narrated by Bryan Cranston. You get to see a little bit more of Godzilla, but still not too much. All around, just a great trailer. Super excited for this movie. One of my most anticipated for the year. So if you guys haven't already seen it, please check it out right here and let me know what you think. Our second bit of news is not nearly as cool, and that is that Harold Ramis passed away on Monday. He was the director of Caddyshack. He starred in the Ghostbusters. He did a whole lot of really great comedies back in the 80s and 90s, and he just passed away recently. So that is really sad, especially since they were just planning on making another Ghostbusters, and I think he was supposed to be involved with that, so he never got the chance, unfortunately. And on a completely different note, we have our movie review / recommendation of the week, which this week is going to be Star Trek by J.J. Abrams. I believe it came out in 2009. I only saw it last year in preparation for seeing Star Trek Into Darkness. I absolutely loved the film, and yes, I have seen the originals as well. I like those a lot. I think they're a very different style, a very different take, and that this stays true to a lot of that while doing something completely different, which is something I always like when you have a remake or reboot. In this case, it's more of a reboot, and something that I think this film does really well is that it doesn't ignore the original films. It doesn't pretend like they never happened. This is actually a thing involving a wormhole with time travel and something that splits off into a different alternate timeline from them. And so you actually have a cameo from one of the actors of the original series, and they're playing his character in the alternate timeline. I'm not going to tell you who because I don't want to spoil it, but it's great. And the movie just does a phenomenal job of making you go, oh, okay, so we didn't lose anything. We didn't lose these original films or anything. It's not acting like this great stuff never happened. It's just giving us, here's an alternate timeline with the young characters that you never really got to see be this young in the original series. And the other thing that this frees them up to do in this film is to make it in the tone of a prequel where, again, everyone's younger, but not go, well, I already know who's all going to make it out. I already know exactly what's going to happen because I've already seen them later on in the series when they're older. Well, you actually don't know any of that because, again, this is an alternate timeline and anything is fair game. And the movie does a really good job of staying true to the tone of the original. It is a sci-fi movie. Everything is glittery and glistening and futury. It really feels like a Star Trek film as opposed to like a Star Wars space fantasy kind of film. Because if you look at the tone of the original Star Wars movies and the tone of the original Star Trek movies, they're very different in tone. And so this one really stays true, in my opinion, to what the tone of the source material really was going for in that very sort of hyper-techno sci-fi sort of world. And there is one thing in this movie that I think could have been done a little better that really annoyed me, and that was just the amount of lens flares in this film. There are so many, and yes, I know that's kind of J.J. Abrams' trademark, and apparently they were all real, none of them were added in after the fact. But there are so many of them to the points you have them like cutting across people's faces and everything's glowing and you can't see anything. It got a little bit annoying at times. It felt a little overboard. But all in all, I think the acting's fantastic. I think the plot's really good and really interesting to see, and I love the fact that they brought back one of the actors from the original series. I think the movie's really fun to watch, and if you like the originals, I think you'll like it. If you didn't like the originals, this is something different, a new, fresh starting point for you if you don't feel like you have time to catch up on all the movies that there were. So I would definitely give this an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy it too. Alright, thank you for watching this week's episode of Worth Watching Wednesdays. I hope you enjoyed it. Like the video if you liked it. Comment down below on your thoughts on the news this week and on the film Star Trek from 2009. And tell me how you think it compares to the originals. And subscribe, of course, if you want to see more. Bye.